The break. We go to health now. Today is the International Childhood Cancer Day, and every year on the 15th of February, communities come together to raise awareness, show support, and highlight the collective power to address childhood cancer challenges. It is a global collaborative campaign to raise awareness about childhood cancer and to express support for children and adolescents with cancer, the survivors, and their families. Childhood cancers are increasingly recognized as a cause for childhood morbidity and mortality following improvement in immunization programs and sanitation against communicable diseases. With improvement in healthcare, better survival outcomes have been reported in childhood cancers worldwide. However, mortality associated with childhood cancers remain high in developing countries. Joining me live is the founder and executive director of Akanimo Cancer Foundation, Ekanem Idara. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Did I get that right?
You did.
Thank you so much. And this conversation, I don't think I've ever had this conversation before.
It's a tough one to have.
To talk about, cancer in children. And I think that's the conversation that needs to be. And now you run a foundation for childhood cancer to raise awareness on these devastating diseases. Tell us your story and why you decided to start this foundation.
So, in 2017, October, I was a lawyer practicing in Ibadan, and my husband was a medical doctor, trained at the University College Hospital, Ibadan too. And my son just developed a stomach ache. And, first couple of days, we just thought, stomach ache, nothing serious. Yeah. And then he just got increasingly fatigued. The fatigue was a major, he was very smart, very vibrant 10-year-old boy. Yeah. And then he would go to school and not really participate. He wasn't playing football, which children love so much.
Of course.
And then we had to take him to the staff clinic of the University College Hospital, Ibadan. And that is when they did the first, did a regular X-ray, and they found a tumor. And that was how the journey began. Sent us for a CT, and they found several tumors. And, it just progressed from there. And we had to get a diagnosis. First of all, we had to do a biopsy to get a diagnosis and then figure out what treatment was he going to get. And that journey took us 2 years, 2 months of total hardship. The pain, the suffering, his entire physique changed. He was his mother's complexion, and he became as dark as, I don't know. At the end of the day, we still lost him, because he had a very rare and aggressive childhood cancer called desmoplastic small round cell tumor. It is one of the rarest ones. During that journey, we got thrust into the entire childhood cancer world. There's a world out there called the world of childhood cancer. And we got to meet parents and children and see the suffering going on. And we realized that for us, because at a point in our journey, we had to relocate to the United States to get him treatment, because DSRCT, that's what they call this diagnosis, is not, he's the first person on record in Nigeria with that disease. And so, started looking into data, started looking into how it is over here compared to how it is over there, and then we figured out we really need to do a lot of work back home. But I thought, as many parents would have thought, that we were going to do that journey from a place of, happiness. Oh, my son fought it, he conquered it, now let's go around the world doing this work. Unfortunately for us, that was not the case, as my son passed away on Christmas Day, 2019.
Such a devastating story. So sorry to hear that. One of the things I also wanted to ask is, what exactly is the cause of this kind of cancer?
That is the question we get. That is the question I've asked Nigerian doctors. That is the questions I've asked doctors in the United States. That is the first question that every parent asks. Yeah. Because tied into that is the issue of guilt that you feel as a parent. Did I do something wrong? Is there something I could have done to avoid this? Yeah. What could I have done differently not to get my child into this? Unfortunately, so far, the science says there is absolutely nothing that we could have done to avoid childhood cancer. So apparently, while children are growing, the cells can just get out of whack. You know, I don't know where you come from, but back in Akwa Ibom State, we would say, the child is just growing. You know, when they get those childhood sicknesses, they're about to have a growth spurt.
Exactly.
So sometimes, as the cells are about to get, it just, you know, so there is no clear-cut cause of childhood cancer. Interesting.
This year's theme is Inspiring Action, Building on Sites to Develop Actionable Solutions. How can we move from solutions in childhood cancer response?
So, at Academic Cancer Foundation, this year's theme has been top on our heads. It was what inspired us to collaborate with the Federal Ministry of Health to hold the symposium that held on Thursday, 2 days ago. Your team was there, and that symposium was the first ever childhood cancer symposium held in Nigeria, because we wanted to spotlight this disease, to have all the stakeholders come together to talk about solutions. Let's have action, because we realized that up until very recently in Nigeria, all the conversations were about cancer in adults. Breast cancer and colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is actually quite down there, with breast and prostate and cervical. No one even mentions children.
Because that's why I said when I introduced the topic, I've not
never spoken about it.
Yes, I've never spoken about it before.
Because, you know, I think that, you know, as people, you don't want to think that something bad is happening to a child. You don't want to think it. We've been in markets, you know, trying to do awareness and have people say, nope, I don't believe you. It's not possible. What did the child do wrong? No, I don't believe it. I have to wear T-shirts sometimes with my son's face to convince people that this is real. This son, he died from it. You know, our minds don't want to think that it's something bad, but it is real. And because it is real, we have to take actions. First of all, awareness. Awareness is top on the list. Let's talk about it. Because what you can talk about, you can get familiar with. What you're familiar with, you're going to want to deal with it. So let's start the conversations around childhood cancer.
Interesting. There's still it's a huge burden globally, most especially in low-income countries. You know, but how do we begin to have, you know, do better in terms of diagnosis and treatment? You know, because that means that, you know, the Ministry of Health also needs to put this into consideration, not just health in adults. Now we're talking about, you know, cancer in children, you know, and it's growing at a very fast pace, and most especially in low-income countries. How do we start to do this?
The burden is huge. So what we started to do, first of all, we hadn't even formed the foundation yet, but by the time we used to do this thing where Academic lives to another birthday, and we would, you know, call our doctor, Professor Brown, over in University College Hospital and sponsor a child. So that formed the basis of the work that we do at Academic Cancer Foundation. And I want to use this opportunity to say thank you to our friends and family that has been supporting us to do this work, because there is no one person that can do this work. But we developed a protocol that in the hospitals that we operate in, which right now is University of Uyo, University of Port Harcourt, National Hospital Abuja, Luth in Lagos, and University College Hospital Ibadan, those are where we have children that are under our patient treatment program. What happens is that we work with the doctors and the social work to look at where we can come in. We target the indigent children. Children get back home because they cannot afford blood work in a country with resources like Nigeria. And cancer isn't like the kind of disease that's going to give you medicine to go back home and take. It's chronic, it's painful, and it takes a long time to treat it. You know, even if you have the most common cancer, which is leukemia in children, it is still very expensive. You have to have access to blood regularly to be able to give that child, to get that child to even be able to withstand treatment. And so, when you look at the most common cancers that we have, and we look at what is available in terms of our resources available to common Nigerians, it is hard to really deal with it as a common Nigerian. I mean, you are not a a politician or someone that has access to funds. It is hard. And so we pool our resources together. We're always online begging for money and asking people to donate to us because we are transparent in how we run our patient treatment program. We work through the hospital. But we do not give money to the hospital for a reason. We pay for the actual treatment. So when the child is getting, say they're coming in for chemotherapy, they would get over to social work, they will sign over for the chemotherapy cycle, it's in cycles, and then you get the treatment. That parent, knowing that there is treatment available under that program in that hospital, there's going to be compliance. Because you have to you cannot take the first one and say, oh, I don't have money, let me go back and do the third one, or maybe I'm going to only do 1 or 2 or 3. The cancer is going to keep doing what cancer does, which is growing. And so the patient treatment program is a very established program at the Kanema Cancer Foundation that we have, over the past couple of years, been able to treat about 20 Nigerian children so far. And we are hoping to be able to do more.
Lastly, in just like 13 seconds while we just look at it, do you think that Nigeria really understand the magnitude of this disease?
I don't think people do. I don't think people do. That's unfortunate.
And how do we respond to it?
I would say conversations, awareness. International partners come in. We are ready to talk about it. We are ready to show you. We know how to get to the villages. We have volunteers that are ready to do the work. We just need the resources to get it done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And your son is the one that bears Akanima?
Akanima, yeah, my son.
May his soul continue to rest in perfect
Thank you
peace.
so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's really hard. Okay, straight.